Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Well, welcome everyone. Tonight is a good conversation, but like I say, you're joining me, Sandee Byrd, on Emotional Elevator. And thanks to Inspired Choices Network for hosting my show. I'm very proud to be a part of such a caring, compassionate, inspiring network. We do a lot of great things at Inspired Choices Network. So if you ever thought about doing a podcast, come over here because Christine does a great job in inspiring us, also teaching us. Just, it's such a great platform. So I had to do a shout out tonight. And yeah, if you go on social media, you will see she turned us into frogs yesterday. She didn't use my wand, she has her own wand. But tonight's conversation is kind of a conversation that's been a very big conversation in my life and talked about all day today. So there was emotions today to talk about this. But the conversation tonight is all about raising interracial, I call them multicultural children. And why do I call them that? But like I said, I want you to land here in this moment, whatever it takes for you to land here so you can be present to listen to this conversation, because I'm going to take a good deep breath in and be present for you tonight. And like always, if you're listening to me on any other platform, please come over to Inspired Choices Network and subscribe so you know what the upcoming shows are, and also so you can join the chat room. Gosh, I'm stumbling right now. So you can join the chat room so I know you're here, and if there's any questions or concerns you have, or if you want to ask a question. But like I said, we're just going to land here in this moment, be present. And I'm going to say, if you are a mother, a grandmother, I just want you to give yourself a big hug, a big pat on the back, because we as mothers aren't given handbooks. Even if you are a father, I shouldn't exclude fathers or grandfathers. Anyone who is a caregiver or raising a child, we are not given handbooks. So give yourself a hug, because we don't know what we don't know. That's my biggest saying recently. And we are going to make mistakes. If you find the perfect parent out there, I would love to meet them, because there is no perfect parent out there. And that's why this conversation tonight is so valuable to me, because I was talking today, and I speak a lot on this, and I'm going to be speaking a lot about this on major platforms about raising interracial children and being in interracial marriages. And first, I'm going to start off by saying I don't like using the word race. I will get into that topic. That is also another platform to probably talk about. But as I like to say too, when you raise a child, the truth of being told or being said that to raise a child, it takes a village. That is very true. It does take a village to raise a child. But I want to tell you, when you're raising a multicultural, or if you like to say the word interracial, that is your call. Because some people challenge me with saying multicultural, and I'll get to that. But when you're raising a multicultural or interracial child, it takes a community. It doesn't just take that village. Because if you think about a village or a borough, I come from New Jersey, so it's kind of like a borough. Mainly is your own family, your own close connections. So I'm holding up a round thing. But when it comes to raising multicultural, interracial children, it does take that community. And why do I say there's a difference? Because you need that community, especially if you're excluded from family because of being in that relationship. That's why it takes a community, because there's a lot of things with raising kids from different backgrounds to understand when you don't know necessarily the culture. And I am very fortunate to have raised my kids in our own little community where the person that they associate as like their aunt and their cousins were also children that were interracial, multicultural children. So they were able to bond with someone that was similar to them and might go through the similarities that they went through. But that's what this conversation is all about tonight. And I am very pleased to be able to talk about this. And this is one of the topics in what some people are drawn to me, not necessarily all the trauma I've gone through, all the things I've talked about, from being the child of an alcoholic parent to being gang raped to being abused to being in an unhealthy marriage to being codependent to be an emotional eater as my addiction, all of that. Now I'm putting another layer on this, and that is being in an interracial marriage and raising multicultural children. The reason, and now I'm going to dive into this, the reason I never liked calling my children interracial, because I don't like the word race. I've never liked the word race. I was talking about that today in a conversation, and two of the people I was talking to was like, I never thought about it that way. I have. And what I mean by that is race. A race to me is something where you want to win a prize. A race is something that you like. Political race. We won't even go down that path because I'm not going down that path. But think about it right now. We're in the United States for the race to presidency. That's a race. Someone's going to win. Okay, a marathon. That's a running race. A race. Someone's going to win. Why do we go and classify ourselves under a race? This was something today that brought a lot of emotion. So I get into my emotions tonight. So be it. I'm human. I'm a mother. I made mistakes. But when we talk about race, my kids felt like they were always having to win a race to be white when they were not necessarily white. And that is a very hard topic for me to talk about because, of course, I was their mom and I am white. So I never understood what it felt like. I mean, I understood what it felt like to be bullied. Trust me, that's a whole nother topic we could talk about myself being bullied as a child. But I did not know what it would be like for them to be bullied by Black, Hispanic, whites. I never thought that. I thought, wow, creating this new, and at one point it was Milanos, would be perfect. Then we could stop racism. No, what I learned was that it made my kids not identify, maybe that's another topic, to identify with a race. And what were they trying to compete to be? So that's one of the reasons why I call my kids multicultural. So what are my kids? My kids are beautiful. They are talented. They are smart. But when you look at my kids, you ask, what are they? And people, I'm going to say some things tonight that might trigger you. So this could be a trigger warning. Do not ever, please ever go up to a child that does not look like their parents and say, you know what? I was adopted too. Because my kids do not look exactly like me. And they are not adopted. Trust me. I went through the birth. I was there. I was present. They are mine. But I do remember my two younger kids because we were pool rats. Of course, I got pretty dark during the summer. But my kids, because they were pool rats, spent all the time at the pool, did get very dark. And one time at a school, a parent came up. I'm going to say my kids were my younger two, fourth grade. My older one would have been sixth grade. No. So he was fifth grade and they were third grade. So came up and said, oh, wow, they're cute. What are they? They're children. Okay, number one, they're children. Oh, I mean, like, what are their parents? I'm one of their parents, and their father is Black. Hispanic, and Indian. Oh, no, really. I mean, they are adopted, right? No. And then you're looking at these kids, younger kids, with this perplexion look on their face, and you go, oh, it's okay, I was adopted too. Where in society is that okay? Especially when your kids sometimes look and go, how are you really my mommy? Like, some of my kids do have my features. Like, I've been told my daughter has my mouth. Um, my middle son has my long face. My older son does look a lot like my brother. Um, so yes, there are similarities with my children where you can see features of me. Even recently, someone said, "Oh yeah, I can see how Cassie, my daughter, looks like me." But it does not matter if my kids look like me or not. They're still my children. And raising them has been difficult in many areas. And that's what this conversation is a lot about, is raising them. And being a parent alone, we make mistakes, but being a parent and not knowing how to culturally raise a child is difficult in and of itself. Now, I'm not saying that their father was not present. Their father was present. And as I've mentioned, my oldest son is from a different relationship. So his father was not present, but he knows that he also is mixed with other mixtures of African, Filipino. We don't know all of it because he too was adopted and not in the picture. So that's here or there. Had that conversation already on one podcast. But what I'm trying to say is that a parent was present of a different culture, and I'm going to use the word culture. If you want race, you can choose race. I just don't like to say race. But he was of a different culture. His background was his father was half Filipino, sorry, that was father number one. He was half Puerto Rican. His father was pure Puerto Rican. And his mom was black, and she had some Indian in her, an Indian tribe around here in Virginia. Anyway, so he was present, but he still did not really give them the Puerto Rican part of their livelihood. His father was not around for him in his life, but he knew because part of his name was part of his dad's name. So he knew that he was part Puerto Rican. But that's what I'm saying. When you're raising multicultural children and you want them to embrace their cultures, but you don't know their cultures, it's still difficult, very difficult to raise these children. And you already are compound with just raising children in general is we don't do everything right and we don't do everything wrong. You got to have an equal balance of right and an equal balance of wrong. But this conversation tonight is a lot about raising these children and how we as a collective, as society, need to start breaking down these barriers. And if you're coming from me in different parts of the world, you might not have these strong barriers that we have here. And it can even be different religious backgrounds, because that is a big thing too. And that is a conversation growing up for me was where I came from in Jersey. You just didn't marry out of your race. Like we are Presbyterian, Christian, Dutch, Scottish, and English. My grandmother was all Scottish. My father's father was Dutch, but hence you just didn't, go marry that Italian Catholic. Just didn't do it, even though my family did do that. But that was a big thing. But I never knew, and being part of conversations here where I'm from, that to cross that race line, and that's where I'll say the race line, like you don't cross a race line, was difficult. And I kind of thought, oh, who cares? The times are changing. And there was a conversation that my mother had with me is I don't care, Sandee, 100%. I don't care that you date whoever you want, because I always dated around the world. And I might have already discussed this, that when I was gang raped, I was basically no, and this might have been turned a difficult conversation. Now I'm mixing things up, that no white man would want me. So that's why I did end up dating many different cultural men, and ended up marrying a Black Hispanic Indian man, because I just thought that's what now I should do. And I saw nothing wrong with it. But I do remember the conversation is, please don't have children. And I was like, wow, that's like racist. Like, how can you say that? That's racist. Do you not see some of the most beautiful children of the world? They are mixed. Mixed. The most beautiful children in the world are mixed. And I mean, shoot, the Dutch mixed with the Scotch and all of that. I mean, what's the difference? So I mixed. I decided to make my own mixing pot. Let's mix in the chocolate, the vanilla. Let's make this perfect chocolate chip cookie. Didn't realize that that chocolate chip cookie is not everyone's flavor in life. Sometimes the chocolate don't like that cookie, and sometimes the vanilla doesn't like that cookie. And that's what the complexity of raising that child. And how do you as a parent open yourself up and be vulnerable, or be willing to have them come to you when things happen to them? Because that's where things fell through the cracks for me. And we are time for our first break. We're going to go to our first break. Yes, this is a very big conversation that might end up going for 2 weeks, but raising multicultural children, interracial children, even being married in an interracial marriage, and how it doesn't take just the village. It takes a community to raise these kids to be in society, and how it's a different take on things and in life. But anyway, we are going to go to our first break. This is a heavy conversation. I do apologize. So during the break, give yourself a hug. If you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're a father, parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever is raising children, give yourself a big hug, because we are not given manuals. We are given books on what to expect when you're pregnant, but not what to expect the next 18 years of their lives, or how many ever years of their lives, because we are going to make mistakes. But that's what this conversation is kind of about, is learning from our mistakes, but especially when you're raising children of different backgrounds. So we are going to go to our break, but just continue to embrace yourself and hug yourself, because you don't know what you don't know. And I hope this conversation opens up your eyes if you've never thought about these kind of relationships or these kind of children. So we're going to go to our break. Thank you.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. I'm sorry, but my music and listen to Inspired Choices Network's commercial definitely uplifts me every single time. I really love the music I chose. But like I said, this is Sandee. I am Sandee on Emotional Elevator at Inspired Choices Network. And like I said in the first part of the show, we always say raising children takes a village, but raising multicultural children takes a community. And what do I mean by that is because we need the community to always come together to embrace these kids. So I'm going to tell you things that I learned as my kids became more of adults, that they were able to speak to me on levels that I could never understand because I was a white mom. But these are conversations that we need to come together as communities. And we need to put aside our differences to raise these children, because it's our differences that create their feelings. As parents, we already sometimes don't build our kids up to give them the confidence, the feelings of worthiness. That's just, that's just part of parenting. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't realize what we're doing and how we're doing it can affect our children. But when you're raising children that realize that one of the parents will never understand what they're going through, is true. And when it comes to being in a multicultural or interracial marriage, the struggles within that too is compounded. And then you bring children in there and you're already compounding that situation. So that's what the topic is tonight. And it's about raising my multicultural children. And I want to enlighten parents out there who might be young parents of these children, or who might be grandparents of interracial children or multicultural, because like I said, I do not like that word interracial. I should just say mixed, Milano, however you want me to word it. But the reason I don't like interracial, is because I don't like the word race. I don't like to see the word race, because what are we racing to become? What makes white superior? And that is a whole nother conversation that I'm not going to get into. But raising these children, I never knew what it felt like for them to be chased on their bikes because they were presumed to be Black kids. I did not know that. I heard about the story when my kids were much older. And also being in that marriage, okay, so their father was a chef, a very good chef. But of course, he was indigenous, Black, Hispanic. So his level of pay was not as much as a white woman who had not a completed college education in social work, but I am a certified life coach, spiritual coach. I have many certifications in many areas, but I still would get paid more. So I was the breadwinner, and I spoke about that on my last show. If you didn't listen to it, Cold Mother Syndrome. So I was not as present in the home, but that still did not give them the cultural background that they would have loved to have grown up with. And then, as I've stated, their father passed away when they were in high school. And when their father passed away, it was way before here. If you're familiar with Richmond, Virginia, if you're listening to me because you know me in Richmond, Virginia, back when COVID started was when our statues came down and we had a major upheaval. The Black Lives Matter movement started, and that's when the climate changed, and that's when my children felt more that they were sectioned out, but they were sectioned out in school. So when we talk about raising the multicultural children, we need to embrace emotions that might not be there normally. Same thing for transgender children, gay children. There is going to be times where you have to have the emotional and mental capacity to handle the challenges that they're going to face. Did I know that? No. Do I know that now? Yes. I will continue to have offspring that is diverse. So at this point, I know the conversations, and so do my kids, are going to have with their children, and how I can approach the conversations in a different way with my possible grandchildren, possible generations to come. There are no generations to come right now. But it is having those challenging or being open and receptive to have a conversation, even though I might not understand. And that's what I learned in the last few years, is there are conversations I never thought I would understand. So my children, to give you a backstory, their father grew up in a very rural country area of Virginia, near the Chesapeake, over near Tappahannock. He was also a very big football star, wrestling star, in the papers, everything. He was well known in the community. If he was ever to get stopped, oh, hey, Kevin, how are you? Blah, 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 he'd go. He was in a horrific car accident. He was actually saved by a policeman and a firefighter. He was brought back to life. He lived. So I'm going to go down this road. My kids never feared for the police. So I never thought I'd have to have the conversation with them. If they ever get pulled, here's what they need to do. And would it have any velocity coming from a white mom, because their father had already passed away? So why this conversation now has become so important for me, and this is where I get emotional. My daughter, when she was 19 years old, got pulled. Her car smelled like marijuana. She was dragged out of her car, pushed to the ground, and handcuffed. Will I ever understand as a white mom? No. Did I ever think I would have to have that conversation with my children, my daughter especially? My sons? No. But that's what the difference is on raising multicultural children, because, and as we were raised here, 5% means you're black. And I never thought to think about that or grasp that as a parent. And I had to. And not having their father in the picture. And now, as I've mentioned, my husband now, and this is another funny story when it comes to my children, is, white, spends his time out in the sun for the power companies. So he does look like he could pass as Indian because he's got long hair, no tattoos. But how is he ever going to understand to have that conversation as the father figure? Like, this is how you got to act, this is what you got to do. And that's the problem. And that's why I fight these battles in my local community, because there should not be a problem. That's the big thing. And also, them not knowing, like today, there was a big conversation with my daughter when she said she's part of a difficult conversation called Angry Black Woman. And I'm always like, it could be her Hispanic side. And she's like, Mom, why can't you accept the fact that I'm black? And I'm like, and I denounce it because I want her to also include the white. And during that conversation, she goes, how can I embrace a heritage of mine, Puerto Rican, if I don't know about it. And she made a point. And that's one thing she does not know. They don't know about their Hispanic side. What they do know is last year when my daughter and I went to Costa Rica and we got to Costa Rica and we went through customs, they right away started speaking Spanish to her and asked her what her Hispanic background was. Well, I'm part Puerto Rican. And down there, I never, when she cried, and well, she was able to speak Spanish. She's very fluent in Spanish, but she doesn't speak it often. So down there, she became very fluent very fast and had conversations and enjoyed it. And then one day when we're in Costa Rica, she's crying, and I'm like, she's like, no, these are tears of joy, Mom. And I'm like, what do you mean they're tears of joy? Are you enjoying your time with your mother that much? And she's like, no, I am, because that's what she does. I am. But you don't understand what it feels like to feel somewhere where you're accepted. And that broke my heart as a mother because I realized that my kids never really felt accepted. And today, having a conversation with my daughter, with the gentleman who holds these conversations that I've joined up with, that as she was breaking it down, growing up, she was too dark to, she was too black to be part of the white, and she was too white to be part of the black, and she never really knew her Hispanic side. So they accepted her, but they didn't really accept her because she didn't embrace that side of her culture. So my kids never felt accepted in their community and their society, and where do they fit in? So that is another complexity to raising multicultural children. So there's another cute story when my middle son was in first grade. He, a little girl came from, I couldn't tell you, but she spoke Spanish. And so my kids always knew no or no in Spanish, and it was basically the language everywhere, was no. Even in, a lot of English speaking cultures, no has always been no. So he would say, sí, no, sí, no. And the girl kept talking to him. And so the teacher called me and she goes, I didn't know Devin was fluent in Spanish. And I'm like, he's not. Well, this girl was talking to him and he just kept sitting there shaking his head, sí, no, sí, no, with like he was understanding the conversation. So he was probably just didn't want to feel left out. So, but because of the way he looked, she got drawn to him and he felt like he was helping her out. So they have these very funny stories of, oh yeah, someone mistaken me for such and such, or told me I look like this person, or everything like that. But the complexity in their lives is things I did not understand. Like, I did not understand how they could never fit with this group and how they would never fit with this group. So that's a complexity I could not understand being their mom. So not only raising children alone, but now putting that extra layer on it was even harder for me to understand in a sense. Did I understand when sometimes they got, bullied or picked on? Absolutely, because I got bullied. I got picked on some of my life. But do I understand what it feels like not to know where I belong? No, I would never understand that. But it's also having that mental capacity to offer them the understanding and the emotional support that they deserved from me as a mom, which I necessarily couldn't give them. So they gravitated towards their father because they felt their father would understand, but he too could not understand because coming from his background, he was accepted in many different groups because of his sports background and being, a big football player in the newspaper, and being a big wrestler and taking them to states and this, that. He was accepted. So when you're just, I don't want to say my kids weren't mediocre. They played football. My daughter cheered. She stepped, which is very big known in the Black community, and she was a phenomenal stepper. And that came down to another situation that happened that I will talk about after this break, because again, there is so many facades of this raising my children that I'd like to talk about. But then we are going to talk about how now we can have these conversations. And there are books out there to help me. And we're talking about writing books to help other children. And there's even books out there now for multicultural children and how to embrace them in society. So we are evolving, but we need to evolve a little bit quicker with this. And there's still going to be some waves within raising these children. So we are going to go on our second break. And thank you for joining me tonight on Inspired Choices Network. Again, I gave big shout outs to Christine and her team for inspiring us to talk about these conversations. Because, again, I am Sandee Byrd, and this is the Emotional Elevator. And stay tuned.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Sorry, like I said, I always eat before I come on here, so I feel like sometimes I get the burpees. Anyway, if ever you want to reach out to me and have a conversation, if you are concerned about raising your children that are multicultural, and how do I handle this, or how do I do this? And I'm always willing to have conversations. And if I don't know, I do have people around me that I can ask. But if there's a lot of topics that have happened with me, and I think that's why I've become an expert on raising multicultural children and the mistakes. Don't do what I did, or do what I did. I could have a whole playbook on don't do what I did. Just raising children in general, but multicultural children, I can tell you. Also, when it comes to having different baby daddies of different cultures, losing a parent that's not the same culture that you are, and how to handle that. I am definitely your grand old encyclopedia on just how to mess up your children. How about that? I'm an expert. No, I'm not. Today my daughter right away praised me and said, "Mom, you don't realize how great of a job you did." Then I kind of want to turn around and go, "But you've criticized me for how many years now?" But that's beside the point. But now, seeing that I'm embracing, yes, I did do this and I should have done this, it makes me the best guidebook for other people. And it's going to make my children the best parents for their children, because it doesn't matter who they marry or who they decide to cohabitate with. they're going to still have mix on mix on mix on mix for generations. And having these conversations and talking about it is what lifts me up to know that I am building foundation for other people out there. So, like I said, you can reach me at sandy@emotionalelevator.com, is my email. Or please reach out to me. I am Sandee Byrd, Sandee Steamster Byrd on Facebook. I now have Joyful Journeys with Sandee, RBA. Also, since I'm a laughter yoga leader, but you can reach me on Sandee Steamster Byrd because that's who I am on platforms, on LinkedIn, on anywhere. If you want to have a conversation with me, or email me at Sandee, Sandee, Byrd, Byrd, coach@gmail.com, and have this conversation with me. Because I will be coming possibly to a town near you having these conversations. Because I feel like this topic is a topic in this day and age that we should be talking about. And how do we have these conversations with our children, especially if there is a parent of a different culture? I do know some reverse cultures, like I know a Black woman that has a child with a white man. That I know she's Filipino and he's German. I know a Filipino white mixed with the Black and white, so they have mixed children. So I have many people I can reach out if you have cultural questions. Many people. I've built my community around those around me that have engulfed that, so I know what I can learn, and I can help others learn from them as well. And I think that's why my community has grown that way. But what do we do when we don't know the answers? We ask. And here's the thing, raising a daughter, a multicultural daughter, was the challenge came, and I might have even mentioned this on one of my shows. I need to go back and listen to them. That raising my daughter, maybe I mentioned it last week, where yes, I did mention it, where she started out with the loose curls, beautiful curls. Then, of course, I come from a family of my brothers got very curly, thick hair. We have thick hair. So combine their backgrounds, my children have very thick hair. I have a son with my oldest son has long, gorgeous hair. If my hair looked as gorgeous as his did, I would probably grow mine long. My daughter has very thick hair. She also has some dreadlocks in the back of it, because that's what she wants to do. And embracing that. Whereas when they were growing up, I wanted them to be more white. So please don't do that. Let's have the hair like this. But like I mentioned before too, is I never knew how to properly care for her hair, and I had to learn. But who did I have to learn from? From my community. Why? Because I not necessarily could have learned from my husband's mother, because I hate to say this, laughed in my face a lot. But at the same time, that's where we need to build these communities. And trust me, if you want to reach out to me about you don't know the proper hair products, hey, I've learned them all. We've experimented with my daughter who's got beautiful hair. Follow me, you will see her. We co-host the Mindful Movement, RBA. But that's what I'm saying. Like, learning this now definitely creates the bond between us, and I will go to bat for my children. I will go to bat for other children that don't feel like they have a voice in the community, because it has definitely been an emotional roller coaster for me to raise my children and make the mistakes that I made with them, with being multicultural. But now, with them really not having their father in the picture, it's now even embracing their culture even more. Being aware of their culture, being involved more in the Black community for me has gotten even greater for me. Wanting to be a part of the community where I can be comfortable with my children in that community, where I can embrace it for my children. And so they can feel like mom is very accepting of this, because kind of when they were growing up, I wasn't as accepting of that. It seemed like it was one or all, one or none. And that was a big part of it. And especially when you have families, and I know people, if you're listening to this conversation, if you come from a family that is not accepting of it, find your community for your kids. Find that community for your kids. In Richmond, years ago, when my kids were, I think they were in elementary school, we had a community that was like a meetup group, which would be a meetup group now, which gives me an idea, where we had this event at a church every month, where all the kids could come and play, and we could sit around and talk. What are the challenges being multicultural? How does your family handle it? How to handle your family? We had these conversations. We came together as a community. My kids don't remember that because I think it dissolved. I can't remember what reasons, but we need to have that more with these children, because sometimes they're not accepted everywhere. And sometimes when they're accepted in one, they only want one parent to come, and when they're accepted in not another. So that was a little bit of a conversation that I wanted to talk about too on here. That was part of a difficult conversation. How I got grabbed into it was they were talking about colorism and how racism even involves in cultures, like if you're dark or light or whatever. But my daughter, being an excellent stepper, she was invited to many different step groups. She was a big stepper, very good stepper. She says now today, she said that was the one way she could get her anger out, and she was good at it. But for her, when she stepped, and then she also played powder puff football 4 years in high school, and she was accepted in the black group. So whenever there was an event, she really didn't want me as her mom to be there, because she didn't want them to see her mom was white. That hurt. But hindsight 50-50, hindsight being 50-50, I now understand, because she finally found a place where she was accepted, because she never felt accepted. So I get it, and I understand it. And did it hurt me? Yes, but it wasn't about me. It was about her. And that's what this is about. It's about embracing our children, who they are, and understanding that when they do come from multicultural backgrounds, sometimes you as the parent need to take a step back and check yourself. Because I, a year ago, got involved with Deconstructing Karen, or went to the viewing, want to get involved with Deconstructing Karen, and read the book, All You Need to Know About Your Own Races and White Women. And a lot of people don't want to get involved with that because, that's a scary subject. But I realized when I walked out of that I allowed my children to be subjected by racism and my own personal, in a sense, racism. And by now knowing this, my children feel that they can be themselves. Because growing up, sometimes even it wouldn't matter if they were multicultural or not, but even growing them up, we want them to act right, dress right, look right. We put pressure on our kids to act these parts, but they don't want to act. Number one, we all do it, no matter who you are. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. 3 children. I've been around many moms. Oh no, you have to wear this. You have to do that. Do this, do that. Wear this, look this. We got to cut your hair. We got to be presentable. But what are we doing? We're telling our kids we don't value them. And that's what I did a lot with them when it came to their cultural background. And it's nice to see my kids and the kind of people they date, because sometimes they're grabbing on the culture that they most identify with. And I love that. And I love to look when they're dating people at my table, and I'm like, damn, I have the whole world in my hands. I have the whole world in my hands, but I don't have it in my hands. I have it at my table. And it's a wonderful thing to see. But then I'm grateful because of all the lessons I've learned on what not to do for my next generations and all the pivoting that my children and I have done for us to embrace and to see their mom get involved with movements and groups to stand up for them when they feel like they don't have a voice. My mom wants to change the way people view us, when before she hid behind it because it was another trauma response for her. But now my mom's standing up and putting out, this is my daughter, and I'm proud of her because she's beautiful. She's wonderful. She's great. My sons, because they're independent, they're gorgeous, and they are lovable. My children were fighters, but they're not. They're lovers now. And I can only be so proud of them. And yes, I could definitely do a big manual on how to raise multicultural children and the lessons I learned through the mistakes I made. Oh my gosh, the show was going to end in 3 minutes. I was going to say, let's take a break, but I might as well keep on going because that's what this conversation was about. And I started out on a little bit of an emotional platform because I had many conversations today about raising my children and wanting to be on platforms and speaking, being a speaker on raising multicultural and the mistakes I made and why did I have multicultural children and what traumas I projected onto them from my own traumas and what kind of racist opinions I had that I implanted in my children when, that is a big thing for them is that they are multicultural and just embracing them as who they are, as talented. But what I want to end this with is my daughter we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, where she said, Mom, I would love the day when someone just asks me my name and it ends there. People ask her name, and then what do? What are you? What are you? Then she explains to him, I'm Black. No. Really, what are you? Okay, so my mom is white. My dad was Black, Puerto Rican, and part Indian. Oh, okay. 5 minutes into the conversation, what's your name again? My daughter would like a world in the society where we don't see and ask the question, what are you? We see everybody as humans. But to make this a joke out of this, my daughter, I told her someone one time who was mixed did the same thing. She was, I'm an alien. And then she went, psh. And the person was like, oh my God, maybe she is an alien. I told my daughter to start doing that. She said, no, Mom, I can't do that. But that's what I'm saying. Raising them has been the most rewarding job I've ever had. And it's been one of the most difficult jobs I've ever had. But like I said, reach out to me if you have any questions on raising those children, because I am an expert at do this, don't do that when raising them, or here's the conversations you had, here's the conversations you want to have, and just embrace life as a whole and not as sections. And I want to always end with giving yourself a big hug for listening tonight, and a big hug if you're a parent, a grandparent, a child caregiver. Just give yourself a hug because you're doing the best you can with what you know. So thank you for joining me tonight on Emotional Elevator. I am Sandee Byrd. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.